Hello and welcome to Should You Play, our video solution to your gaming curiosity. Today we want to talk about the Dragon Quest III Remake by Square Enix that was released in November 2024 and boasts a stunning HD 2D graphical overhaul, a style pioneered by Octopath Traveler.
Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remaster represents the narrative beginning of the first three original Dragon Quest games, known as the Erdrick Trilogy. Dragon Quest 1, 2 and 3 share the same timeline, setting the hero Erdrick and involve the kingdom of Alfgard. So, despite being named Dragon Quest III, this remake is actually the first game chronologically, which is why the remake was released before the remake of Dragon Quest 1 and 2. Thankfully, you don't need to have played Dragon Quest 1 and 2 to enjoy this one.
Indeed. Welcome to the confusing chronology of JRPGs. The Dragon Quest III Remake does not set out to redefine the genre or change the original game's blueprint the same way the Final Fantasy VII Remake project is. Instead, it faithfully sticks to the original while adding modern quality of life improvements and a graphical makeover.
But have they managed to modernise this beloved classic whilst retaining the qualities that made it so beloved in the first place? Or does this revamp crush everything that made the original so special? Here is my initial thoughts.
The story is well paced, straightforward and refreshingly simple. This isn't a modern Pokemon game where you are stuck in tutorial land for an hour having every little thing explained to you as if you are 5 years old either. A gripe I'm currently experiencing as I delve into the world of modern Pokemon games, yay! Instead there is a short explainer of the basic premise and then the reins are off. You are immediately prompted to create your party and head out to begin your quest. More games should do this.
You play as the son of a renowned hero, Ortega, who left home to take down the evil archfiend Baramos. He sadly failed, and upon turning 16 you resolve to pick up where your father left off. You receive a blessing from the king to continue Ortega's quest to stop Baramos, who still poses a threat to the world, and perhaps find your father in the process. The expectations of you are high due to your father's reputation, but then you are free to explore and figure everything out on your own.
The storytelling is coupled with short, sepia-filtered flashback sequences that add some meat to the bones of your mission, showing scenes with Ortega and your mother. This adds some emotional weight to your journey and cause, since one of the areas the game isn't great at is character personalities and relationships, but more on that later. In terms of story structure, this game embraces the tried and true formula of go to a town, help with a problem, be rewarded something that enables progression, move on to next town.
Anyone who has played Dragon Quest games before will know that this is par for the course, but it works incredibly well and is a formula that works even now. Why fix it if it isn't broken? The main scenario often takes players into dungeon areas, but you don't need to stick to the main story at all or rush through it. Doing that is a good way to get yourself killed. This is a game you must approach at a slower pace and engage in a bit of grinding between main story scenarios.
There's a lot to explore throughout the surprisingly huge and dense overworld, and you are encouraged to do so. There's a lot of treasures to find, caves and towers to explore, dungeons to traverse and secret areas to discover. The towns themselves are a decent size and are visually stunning backdrop for your character sprites that are now more detailed than the blocky sprites from the original but still retain a classic retro feel.
Most towns come with the basic establishments you need on your travels: an inn to rest at and restore your health and magic, weapons, armour and general goods merchants, a bank to store money, and sometimes there's something new that is specific to that town, such as the Monster Battle Arena in Romania. Towns also have a church building that offers a range of services.
For those that don't know, this is a series staple and is where you can resurrect fallen party members, save your game through the confession function and use other services like divination to find out how much XP is needed to level up or cure any status ailments.
The towns are great to explore. The attention to detail here is excellent. You can have a poke around inside buildings and interact with things in the environment, such as bookshelves, drawers, wardrobes, pots, barrels, dig spots and more.
The inclusion of quest markers is a new quality of life feature that is nice to have but doesn't seem very helpful. All it does is highlight where to go on the world map. It gives no inclination of where to go inside places, which can leave you feeling a little lost sometimes if you're not sure where to go, what to do or who to speak to. For example, the player becomes king of Romania for 5 seconds and you can't go anywhere or do anything until you find the real king and give him his crown back.
There's a world map, continent maps, and local maps for towns, building internals, and dungeons. The quest marker highlights the next major place to go on the world map, but doesn't give any directions on a micro scale. I was told that the king was at the battle arena, but I forgot where the battle arena was inside the town. Turns out it was inside the shops down the stairs, because where else would a massive battle arena be? Anyways, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing comes down to personal gameplay preferences.
Dungeons and caves are fun to traverse, but it's basically a case of get to the end of the dungeon whilst battling monsters. We're not talking about top tier dungeon level designs with head scratcher puzzles here like in classic Zelda games. But this game doesn't need that, it's all about the journey, the battles, party setup and loot. Ah, loot. Gotta love that loot. That could be a song, that. Loot. Gotta love that loot.
Loot.
Gotta love that loot.
Yeah! The overworld reminds me a lot of Ni no Kuni, Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Vesperia, and other similar titles, where towns look compact on the overworld and upon entering they scale up to normal size. I love this style. I also love the overworld twinkling spots for loot and visual cues to find secret areas, which reminds me of Trinity Trigger.
One thing that can be quite annoying is the amount of locked doors throughout the game. You gain keys as you progress which unlock the corresponding different coloured doors, but it can still be frustrating having so many places closed off from you in a game that encourages freeform exploration from the get-go. It makes the game feel like a linear game wolf in an open world sheep's clothing.
This reminds me of the locked chest and corresponding coloured keys system in Tales of Zestiria, which was equally irritating. Nonetheless, in Dragon Quest III Remake, it's so exciting to see a town off in the distance, waiting to be discovered, so that you can resurrect the stupid 3 coffins you've been dragging behind you after being attacked every 10 seconds, which leads us nicely onto the combat system. The combat system is turn-based random encounters, and the frequency of these random encounters is the biggest gripe of mine so far. Maybe if they were less stingy with XP and gold upon winning, we wouldn't need our journey interrupted so often. It's actually a little ridiculous.
For the record, Heather has never been keen on random encounters, so she's a little biased here.
It's true, it just annoys me and pulls me out of a game mentally and literally being dragged against my will into a battle arena every few seconds, when I just want to explore and be left alone for 5 flipping minutes.
Yes, she's fine with turn-based, but she prefers to see enemies in the overworld and choose whether or not to engage them, which is fair enough. I'm more used to random encounters from the earlier Pokemon games, so my patience threshold is higher, but even I have to admit that an encounter every 10 seconds is a bit much. At least in Pokemon you can use Repel. But, to play devil's advocate here, you can flee battles fairly easily and quickly if you don't feel like partaking, tweak the battle speed, or you can use consumables that deter weaker monsters from attacking, just like Repel.
Very true. Anyways, apart from my personal disliking of random encounters, the battle system is excellent, albeit less flashy and engaging than other turn-based systems. It's classic no-frills turn-based, and is Dragon Quest in its purest form, so those familiar with other Dragon Quest games will feel comfortable here. Battles are first person, where you select actions at the start of the turn and watch them unfold. You can tweak your tactics, which determines how your companions behave during battle, and the level of automation.
You can opt for companions to completely follow your orders, or you can command them to fight wisely, not use magic, focus on healing or other. Battles are meant to allow for a strategic approach by equipping the right gear and utilising each character's spells, abilities and class strengths, known as vocations in this game. There is a lot of customizability when it comes to gameplay and characters, and the enemy types are your standard Dragon Quest fare.
There's the recognisable Bunicorns, Slimes and Ravens, and a total of 150 different kinds of enemies, which keeps things fresh. Dragon Quest fans will know that Metal Slimes are an XP cash cow, and one of the most exciting things about the game is figuring out the locations where they are likely to spawn and enjoying your newfound exploit.
There's 3 difficulty levels in the game. Draki Quest is easy mode, which doesn't necessarily make things easier, all it does is make it so that you basically can't die. Dragon Quest is normal mode and Draconian Quest is hard mode. In terms of difficulty, the game does have its moments. I've noticed a few times when the difficulty spike was insane just from going from one area to another, but that's down to not having leveled up enough to be prepared to tackle the challenges that lay ahead. A short grinding session in a previous area to go up a few levels and the difficulty drops.
The level of difficulty can also be determined by your party setup. At the onset of your journey, you are prompted to create or recruit 3 other party members. This is a big commitment so early in the game, and there are several classes, or vocations, to choose from, without being given much information about the capabilities of each. Apart from the main protagonist's vocation being fixed as a hero, the other 3 companions can be tailored to your liking. You can recruit 3 default companions or create entirely new ones.
There's warrior, martial artist, mage, priest, merchant, gadabout, thief, and finally monster wrangler, which is a new addition to the vocation system of the original that provides access to different monster abilities. You can choose how your character sprite looks and sounds, and once you choose a vocation, you can then allocate 5 attribute enhancing seeds. Which stats you choose to enhance here determines your character's personality, which, from what we understand, governs the speed at which each stat increases when levelling up hereafter.
The vocations are quite varied, and how you set up your team at the start does matter, so be prepared for some initial trial and error. Later in the game, if your characters have reached level 20, you can change existing party members' vocations, but this pushes them back to level 1 of that new vocation, retaining their abilities and spells and half of their original stats. This allows for some truly tailored party compositions.
Sadly, this level of mechanical flexibility results in silent, personalityless blank slate companions. The game is less about camaraderie, individual character depth, story and relationships, and more about exploration, combat, RPG elements, and builds. Sometimes this is a good thing, since it can be refreshing to not have an overbearing story or obnoxious characters like in Dragon Quest XI, but it does end up feeling shallow in this regard.
Not being able to get to know companions on any deep level makes them feel like interchangeable personalityless pawns, and makes me long for the meaningful character story arcs and party chatter from comparable titles. This is the same as the original, but it made sense back then. Now, these companions follow you around like an Octopath Traveller, have voices, and are given personalities on paper, but they never speak. It makes it really hard to care about and connect with them. What you do end up caring about and connecting with is their character vocation. Let me tell you, when you find a combination that works, you start feeling a little overpowered. One area that the game really fails in is the inventory system. It's the same system that was used in Dragon Quest XI. It's outdated, clunky, needless busywork.
Basically, there is a shared item bag where all items are held. However, the item bag cannot be accessed during combat, so you must manually transfer items to each individual party member's item bags. Why? Because Dragon Quest, that's why. Due to this, a lot of time can be spent in menu screens stressing over who is holding what items, which items you might need during a battle, and whose pockets to transfer items to. Personally, I see no reason why the party can't access the overall inventory system like every other video game ever.
Eventually, players do get accustomed to these archaic menus, if they aren't already, but I really wish they changed it for modern audiences. Me and Dragon Quest UI have never gotten along. It just all feels wrong to me and puts me off. While that is normally a deterrent, I can look past it for this game. But I shouldn't have to. Square Enix have created other games with excellent menus and UI, so why cling to this obsolete setup?
Because Dragon Quest, that's why. So, should you play Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake? If you like classic turn-based JRPGs, then yes, this is a no-brainer for you. If you are new to the Dragon Quest series, then this is also a good starting point, providing a faithful remake that only enhances the experience of playing the original. If, however, you don't like turn-based combat, or you prefer games with a storyline you can get lost in and characters you can get to know, then no, this game might not be for you.
Of course, we've just provided a basic overview, since we don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but rest assured that the game opens up in fantastic and surprising ways. Just like Trials of Mana, in my opinion, this remake stands out as a shining top-tier example of a remake done right. You can revisit the old adventures without transforming it into something unrecognisable. The HD 2D graphics was a perfect direction for Dragon Quest III. I can't wait for the release of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 also, and I do hope that Square Enix continues to pioneer this old but perfected concept.
Anyways, let us know what you think about this remake in the comment section below, and also let us know if you say Enix or Enix. I've been Craig.
And I've been Heather, and it's Enix!
It's Enix.
Even Square Enix says themselves it's Enix.
Do they? You're hearing it in Japanese and it's translated, so shush.
Oh, whatever.
Anyway, this is Amalgamingo, and thanks for watching.
Woo!